What if within you there is a deep greatness that you've not even begun to touch yet, that you cannot even see yet? How much of what is waiting for you, how much of what you are capable of, you just can't see yet. The very first documented case of Scotoma, back in the days of the great explorers like Columbus, there was a very famous explorer by the name of Magellan. He went out to a place that we now call South America. These are massive three-masted ships. Obviously, they couldn't sail them into any kind of a harbor. There was no harbor. This was new foreign land. And what was interesting was this, that as those ships lay on the horizon, the native people of South America could not see those ships. I don't mean they couldn't see them because they didn't have binoculars or they didn't have some way of seeing them. I mean, they could not see them. In other words, they did not exist to the people on land. It was only the great shamans, the great wise people of those native cultures, those who had explored a bigger reality, who could actually see the ships on the horizon. And the reason that the natives could not see the ships is because they had never seen ships with three masts before. That just didn't exist in their reality. They had had small boats that they paddled. They'd even developed boats that had a single mast. But a three-masted ship was way beyond anything they could possibly imagine. But the shamans drew these ships on the sand with sticks and had people look at these diagrams and then look out of the ocean and look at the diagram, look out of the ocean. And they did this repeatedly until eventually, boom, the three-masted ships appeared as if out of nowhere. Were they always there? Yes, of course they were always there. They had an inability to actually even see the ships. That is called scotoma. In a physical sense, it's when you have those black blind spots in your vision. Some people get those and they have these black blind spots. They're called scotoma. But it's actually a psychological state too. It's where we cannot see what we don't believe. It doesn't actually exist because we don't believe it. Like those native people of South America, you look out onto the ocean and there are no three-masted ships because that doesn't exist in your reality. How much of what is waiting for you, how much of what you are capable of, you just can't see yet. What if you have scotoma about your own gifts, about your own abilities, about your own purpose, because I guarantee you that is exactly what you have. In my work and working with leaders and organizations and people like you, I help them to find those scotoma, those places where they cannot see their greatness. Because my work is about helping you connect to your deep greatness so that you can live your purpose. But the problem with it is, just like those native people, somebody has to draw it in the sand for you. Somebody has to give you the ability to see what you could not see, what is unbelievable to you at this time. And here's the thing, we all need it. You see the world through the framework you've been given about who you are. But the framework you were given about who you are was limited by the person who gave it to you. And as children, we are absorbent. We take that in and okay, that's who I am. But what if you're far greater? What if within you there is a deep greatness that you've not even begun to touch yet, that you cannot even see yet? I was working with a client, and when we first started working together, so he went through the application process to work with me, very successful individual, top of the game certainly in the upper echelon of the industry that he was in. I was introduced to him by another one of my clients who said, this guy's one of the top at what he does, but he knows there's something greater within him, but he doesn't know how to get access to it. And I think you can help him. So, okay. And I met with this guy and we began to talk, and he had this sense, and you may know what I'm talking about, but he had this sense that there was something greater within him. And he said that he felt kind of uncomfortable and maybe even egoic in saying that he felt there was something greater within him. It felt uncomfortable to say that. And we began to work together, and I began to examine what was going on, what was driving him, what had always driven him, what was the purpose of his life. And I began to see in him what was really possible. Like I said, he was already successful, but what was really possible? And when I began to describe his deep greatness, you know what he said to me? I just don't see that. I don't get it. He had a scotoma about his own brilliance. And this is what's fascinating about it, is it was very shortly after that he just stopped showing up. First, he stopped showing up emotionally, and then he just stopped showing up physically. The fact that he had intuitively knew that he was designed for greatness, that he knew that that was within him, the seeds of greatness had been planted there from the beginning. That was one thing, but to have somebody acknowledge it was freaking terrifying, and he ran away. And it was a couple of years later before he came back, and I said, well, why would I trust you to work with you again? And he said, you asked me a question. He actually asked me two questions, he said, that just rattled around in my brain, and I couldn't get rid of them. And I said, what was that? And he said, the first question you asked me was, who will suffer if you continue to play small? He goes, I couldn't shake that question. And he goes, and first he said, I was really mad at you because I knew I wasn't playing small. He goes, everybody looked at me. He said, no, they sort of saw me as this upper echelon where they wanted to be. He goes, but what I realized was from your second question. The second question you asked me that played on my mind was, who will suffer if you keep denying your deep greatness? You see, he was playing a big game by other people's standards, but he wasn't playing a big game by what he intuitively knew. But he felt egoic in even owning that greatness within him. And what's fascinating about us is when we shy away from that greatness within us, we end up actually behaving egoically. It's fascinating that we're afraid of our greatness because we don't want to become egomaniacs, and we end up behaving completely egoically in order to avoid the greatness that is truth, that isn't got any ego in it whatsoever. It's just, I'm here to serve, and this is why I'm here to serve. So let me ask you, where are you suffering from scotoma? Where do you have blind spots? In yourself, in the people you work with? What is your business capable of that you just can't see because you're already inside? So next time, Dov Baron saying, stay curious, my friend. Stay curious about your own scotoma. Don't need a cure? I'm here for you. So next time, Dov Baron, I'm out.